AITA for sending a long text to my husband's friends about my boundaries. It happened a few years back, and it stuck with me to this day. My 33-year-old husband, let's call him Max, has been buddies with a guy named Rick for ages. Rick is in his 30s too, and he's got a girlfriend called Jean. They're like an established couple. Rick and Jean are pretty much inseparable. We all got along well enough. We had double dates a few times, and they were always nice to me. We even exchanged gifts on birthdays. One time, we decided to have dinner together again. Rick had this idea that since I worked at a restaurant at the time, I could bring the food from my place. On the day before the big night, Jean and Rick called us up. They wanted to discuss what I should get. You see, they both had some severe allergies, so I knew it would be tricky. My restaurant served lots of ethnic food with spices and soy sauce and everything, which was a bit problematic for them. I tried my best to accommodate their needs. I worked late that night, but still managed to keep Jean informed about the dishes. They kept asking if I could do this or that. It got to the point where it felt like they were being too pushy. One time, when I said I was really busy at work and needed to go, Jean replied with a passive-aggressive text, "I understand," smiley face. That made me so mad. Jean and Rick were disappointed when I canceled our plans. They even said that if bringing food was too complicated for me, we could just order takeout instead. They also mentioned that they had prepared something special for my birthday as a gift. But at the time, I was too upset to think about anything else. It felt like they didn't respect my boundaries and kept adding more requests knowing how busy I was. Feeling frustrated, I sent a long text to Rick explaining my situation and apologizing for canceling. Max suggested that instead of texting Jean directly, which he thought would make things worse, I should talk to Rick first. But when I did, Rick didn't reply. He also told Max that he and Jean felt hurt by what I said and needed some time to recover. Max stood up for Rick and Jean, saying I was overreacting and shouldn't have canceled the plans. It's been a while since we've all met together as couples. Rick and Jean haven't really kept in touch with me much anymore. Only Max still sees Rick sometimes. Am I asking too much here? AITA. My wife confesses to being a serial cheater during our 15 years of marriage and I was never aware of any of it. My wife confesses to being a serial cheater. Slut wife. This is a true story about how I discovered my wife had enjoyed many different men's cocks during the 15 years of our marriage. All without me knowing anything about it. My wife, Marcia, is 35 and I am 39. One day I was using Marcia's phone and began to scroll through her texts. There were a lot of cryptic texts at different times of the day, to a number that I was not familiar with. I called the number and a man answered. I quickly hung up. Later that day I called Marcia at work and confronted her about the number. She made some quick excuses, but I wasn't buying them. After just a few minutes she confessed there was someone else. She left work early and met me at home where she began to tell me that she met Mark at a bar about 2 years earlier and that they had been having a sex ever since. I was completely shocked, first that she had done it and secondly that it had been going on under my nose for 2 years. Marcia told me that Mark was nearly 10 years younger than her and that he fricked her better than anyone else in her life, including me. She left that afternoon to be with him. Marcia stayed with Mark for 3 days. Finally, she called and asked if I would take her back. She came over to our house and explained that she wasn't really in love with Mark, she was in love with his cock. She told me that for 2 years she had sucked and fricked Mark at our house every time I would go out of town on business. She said getting fricked by that young cock was amazing and that he could drill her for hours. Several times I had called while they were having sex and she had answered the phone and talked to me while jacking him off at the same time. After she could get me off the phone he would slide his big dick back in, and he would continue to frick her brains out. Marcia said there was nothing that she didn't do for Mark and that rock-hard cock, and his enormous balls, so big that she could only fit one of them in her mouth at a time. One of her favorite things to do was to suck his balls while stroking his cock. She would say, "Feed me your cock." Mark could come in her mouth whenever he wanted, but mostly he liked to pump his load into her pussy. Marcia was taking birth control pills without my knowing, so she got her pussy filled with Mark's cum at least 6 or 7 times per week for over 2 years. Marcia told me that she would sometimes meet Mark during her lunch hour and frick him. If they didn't have time to frick, she would suck his cock and then jack him off, letting him come in her hand or mouth. She said getting Mark to come in her hand was a real turn-on, watching that big hard cock squirt. Over their time together, Mark must have fricked my wife at least 300 times. After doing a little math, I figured that Mark must have pumped over a gallon of cum into my wife's pussy, not to mention the loads he pumped into her mouth or shot onto her. I ended up agreeing to take Marcia back. And over the next several months she told me plenty more about sucking and freaking Mark. I even got an email from Mark telling me how much he had enjoyed freaking my wife. Included with the email were a dozen pictures showing Marcia nude. Some showed her sitting between his legs with her pussy waiting to be fricked. One picture showed Marcia with Mark's long cock entering her mouth. I told a close friend of mine this whole story and he said that my wife had become Mark's cum slut, who would do anything for him just to get another load of his cum. It hurt thinking about seeing her diamond wedding ring covered in another man's cum and how that wedding ring on her finger didn't seem to stop her from being another man's cum slut. Once Marcia opened up to me about freaking Mark, it wasn't long before she admitted that Mark was not the first guy she had fricked since we got married. She eventually admitted to freaking or sucking 11 different guys that she could remember. Most of these guys she had fricked many times. She explained that she was freaking 2 other guys the entire time we were engaged. She had even got fricked one guy on the day before our wedding. She said that she loved freaking every one of her men, but there was this one guy who had a huge cock. He worked for the same company as Marcia. He had come onto her at work several times and she just kept teasing him. Finally, they both ended up attending the same out-of-town meeting. She invited him up to her room after dinner. When he got there, Marcia told me she was dressed in a sleazy nightgown with her tits falling out and her ass showing beneath her panties. They started kissing the minute the door closed. He was playing with tits while she dropped to her knees and began unbuckling his belt. When she pulled out his cock, all she could say was, "Wow, that's a big dick." She stayed on her knees and sucked his cock until it got hard and straight. When continued talking about his big dick, he reminded her that, "You could have had this cock 6 months ago." When he started to frick her, Marcia told me that she came in about 5 strokes. His cock was so large that he couldn't fit it all into her pussy. After she came all over him and couldn't take any more, she told him lay on his back so she could return the favor. All Marcia could get in her mouth was the head. Marcia thought she could quickly get him to come just by sucking his cock, but after 15 minutes of sucking the head, still no cum. So, Marcia started to stroke his thick shaft while keeping her lips and tongue wrapped around the head of his cock. Finally, he said he was going to come. Her reply was, "It's about time." Marcia said that horse cock pumped the biggest load of cum into her mouth she had ever taken. She swallowed as much as she could and let the rest drip down her chin onto his shaft while she massaged his balls. Another story Marcia told me involved a guy she worked with. On a night when I was out of town, Marcia met him at a hotel. During dinner they got so hot playing with each other under the table that they had the waiter package up their food before it was even brought to the table. They immediately headed up to his room and fricked till there was cum everywhere. After they were done sucking and freaking each other, they ate their dinner in bed. After dinner he stuck his cock in my wife once more and pumped another load of cum into her pussy. She told me they joked about it being her dessert. Marcia hooked up with yet another guy she worked with for a one-nighter on a business trip, but told me it was nothing special, just a suck and a frick. Even her boss was, an old guy, got attention. On several occasions she let him stick his hands up her skirt and play with her pussy. She even felt his cock through his pants in his office. She told me that she was sure that as soon as she left his office, he must have had to jack himself off. The last of her flings with work buddies ended differently. They were together at a company party one night and he was driving her home. Marcia came onto him pretty hard, but he kept saying that he was uncomfortable having sex with a married woman. Eventually Marcia was able to get his cock out of his pants in the parking lot and started giving him a blowjob. She kept asking, "Don't you want to stick your dick in me?" He wouldn't frick her though, but he did let my lovely wife continue sucking him off until he pumped his load into her mouth. She didn't swallow, making a sticky mess right there in the parking lot. Marcia also reminded me about the night at a neighborhood party when she ended up freaking a guy in our living room while I was asleep in the bedroom. He was about 15 years older than Marcia. She says she can still remember watching that guy's eyes roll back in his head as she squeezed his balls and jacked off a load of cum onto her belly. Later that summer the guy's wife caught Marcia giving him a blowjob and almost divorced him. I was never aware of any of this until years later. Marcia also confessed to freaking another neighbor who hosted a surprise birthday party for me. I was draining the last bit of cum from his cock when I asked if he would help me plan your party. Of course, he said yes, and I did enjoy the party, but had no idea about all the planning that went into it. The one of her affairs that upset me the most was her freaking my best friend. He and I played golf together every weekend, would have a couple drinks and spent a lot of time together. During one of my business trips, she went over to his house with the sole purpose of freaking him. She got her wish and more. They fricked several times at both his place and ours. On several occasions when he came over to visit me, my wife would sneak away with him and give him a quick blowjob. On another occasion, Marcia was out with one of her girlfriends at a bar. She met a cute guy and gave him her phone number and told him that her husband was out of town and to call her later that evening. He called late in the evening and got directions to our house. He fricked my wife well into the morning, right there in our bed. Marcia fricked him several more times, but eventually cut him loose because he was in the middle of a nasty divorce and she was worried that his ex might catch the two of them together. Marcia's sexual adventures were not limited just to men. I know of at least 2 girls that she had sex with during our marriage. The first was a neighbor who had huge tits. Marcia said she was disappointed that her tits were saggy and not firm. But they did enjoy eating each other's pussy and coming on the other's face. The second girl was also a neighbor. She was hot for Marcia's tight body. I can remember her saying once when we were all out together that Marcia was pretty enough to eat. At the time I didn't realize that she was telling the truth. After reading this story back to Marcia, we went out for dinner, came home and had an evening of great sex. All's well that ends well. The driveway. The driveway used to be his favorite place. That's where their first kiss was, sitting on the cold concrete in front of the car. He'd been terrified back then. But now, he doesn't know she's home. He saw her pull up an hour and a half ago. So excited, he made her a bowl of her favorite buttered noodles to enjoy together. The house was theirs for the evening, just them watching the season finale. All week had been leading up to tonight. But now, the noodles are cold, the butter is gelatinous, and it seems like all that pasta went to waste. She's still in the driveway. We're both alone, but only one of us seems lonely. AITA for joking that my friend was playing a guy who bought her a $150 festival ticket. My friend Jess has a guy buddy named John who is head over heels in love with her. Jess knows how he feels but told me she doesn't want to go out with him. We've talked before about setting some clear boundaries, but she still lets him buy her stuff and spoil her. A while ago, Jess sent us all a text saying that John offered to pay $150 for her to come to a music festival with him. She said it was expensive at first, but ended up going anyway. Later, she sent me a Snapchat of them at a bar. I messaged some funny reactions and joked that she might be going home alone. She responded by saying John wasn't even going to get anything in. I replied, if you're playing him, you might as well let him use you. I was just using dark humor. I definitely don't think she should sleep with him or owe him sex or any of that stuff. I thought she knew that based on our previous talks. She initially responded with haha and called me rude, so I thought we were still bantering. But then she denied playing him at all. I said maybe there was some truth to it because she knows he loves her but doesn't want to date him and still accepts expensive gifts and experiences from him. She got really mad, screenshotted the conversation, and told me to stop talking to her. Instead of backing down, I kept defending my point. Now I'm wondering if AITA for making the joke and accusing her of playing him, even though we've had previous conversations where she basically compared herself to an ex in a similar situation. The HOA president's long goodbye. When I moved into my quiet suburban neighborhood, I thought we'd get some peace and quiet. Instead, I walked straight into a dictatorship run by our HOA president, Todd. Todd was the kind of leader who loved power but didn't like being held accountable. He made everyone play by his strict rules, like fining people $200 for leaving their trash cans out just after 9 a.m., but he ignored those same rules when it suited him. His own yard was a mess, with unpermitted structures and fences taller than allowed. But Todd's real sin. He used the HOA as his personal piggy bank. At first, I tried to talk some sense into him. My fence was slightly off color because the approved stain wasn't available, so he fined me $500. When I explained and provided receipts, hoping for leniency, Todd just smirked and said, "Rules are rules." That's when I decided I would take him down, not with screaming or public arguments, but methodically, legally, and in a way that would hurt. Step 1, become the incideman. Todd underestimated me. I volunteered to be on the HOA board under the guise of wanting to get involved in the community. I played the part of the eager, naive newbie perfectly. For 2 years, I attended every meeting, quietly observing Todd's tactics. He controlled the board by bullying other members and burying them in paperwork. He pushed through votes when only his allies were present and conveniently lose paperwork submitted by dissenting homeowners. I kept my head down, took detailed notes, and waited for an opportunity to outlast his term as president. Then I discovered Todd's second mistake. He wasn't just a bully, he was a thief. Step 2, follow the money. Todd loved to brag about how well he managed the HOA's finances. But something didn't add up. The annual fees were high, way higher than in similar neighborhoods, but common areas were falling apart. The pool closed half the summer due to maintenance issues, and landscaping looked like it hadn't been touched in months. I started digging. As the HOA treasurer, Todd had access to all the accounts, but he was notoriously cagey about sharing financial details. I asked for the budget during a meeting, and Todd laughed it off, saying, "Don't worry, I've got it under control." I filed a formal request for the financial records, which were required by HOA rules. Weeks went by with no response. That's when I started talking to neighbors. Turns out, I wasn't the only one suspicious. Over a dozen homeowners had requested access to the budget over the years, only to be ignored. One neighbor claimed Todd had used HOA funds to install a new patio at his house, while another swore he'd seen Todd's kids at the community pool during its maintenance closure. Armed with these suspicions, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board, forcing Todd to provide the records. He stalled, but I wasn't backing down. Step 3, build the case. When Todd finally handed over the financial documents, they were a mess. Invoices were missing, payments were mislabeled, and some expenses were downright bizarre. A $15,000 landscaping fee paid to a company that didn't exist, thousands spent on administrative costs with no explanation. I cross-referenced the HOA's bank statements with public records and found the smoking gun. Todd was funneling money to his personal accounts. Even better, I discovered Todd had been inflating contractor fees, pocketing the difference, and splitting the profits with a shady contractor who handled most of the HOA's maintenance. I compiled everything into a detailed report, complete with spreadsheets, photos, and notarized statements from neighbors who had seen Todd's antics firsthand. It was time to take action. Step 4, the coup. I waited for the annual HOA meeting, which was typically a snooze fest attended by only a handful of homeowners. But this time, I made sure people showed up. I spent weeks knocking on doors, explaining what Todd had been up to. I didn't share everything, just enough to get people angry and curious. On the night of the meeting, the room was packed. Todd started the meeting like usual, droning on about how difficult it was to manage the HOA and how much he'd sacrificed for the community. That's when I stood up. I calmly asked if he could explain some discrepancies in the budget. Todd laughed nervously and said, "I don't think this is the time or place." I replied, "Actually, Todd, it's the perfect time." I handed out copies of my report to everyone in the room. The mood shifted instantly. People started reading, whispering, and then shouting. Todd tried to regain control, but it was too late. I called for a vote to remove him as president. By the end of the night, Todd was out. Step 5, the final blow. After Todd was removed, we hired an independent auditor who confirmed everything. Todd had embezzled over $50,000, mismanaged tens of thousands more, and committed multiple counts of fraud. We reported him to the police and filed a civil lawsuit to recover the stolen funds. But it didn't end there. Todd's shady contractor buddy was also exposed and banned from doing business in the county. Todd had to sell his house to pay restitution and legal fees. His name became a running joke in the neighborhood, and no one would touch him professionally. With Todd gone, we restructured the HOA to prevent another dictator from taking over. We implemented term limits, required multiple board members to approve financial decisions, and created an online portal so all homeowners could access budgets and meeting minutes. The aftermath: every time I walk past Todd's old house, now owned by a lovely family, I smile. The pool is open, the landscaping is beautiful, and HOA fees are lower than ever. Todd, meanwhile, moved to a neighboring town where he reportedly tried to join another HOA board, only to be laughed out of the room when someone Googled his name. Justice wasn't just served, it was plated, garnished, and savored. New Years of Conquest 45. Oh, I wonder how Zillis and Deb are gonna get out of this one. Somebody even did a fun sketch of the hostage situation we found ourselves in. Fan art is the best, and I always need more of it. There's a moment a little later in the chapter where, if you could do me a huge favor, just imagine Finn the human's signature scream. You'll know when. Novel's nearly done, which is very good, because it's my birthday this Saturday, and I really wanted to have something to show by then. Might even have Orlam's debut to show by then, too. Been writing bits of that as a palate cleanser between chapters. It'll be fun. When first we met Seifel, first, previous, New Years of Conquest on Royal Road, tip me on Ko-Fi, memory transcription subject, Chairman Debbin, Sea Glass Mineral Concern date, standardized human time, January 27, 2137, drop the chairman, Gray. Sergeant Holden shouted, as he leveled his rifle at the two of us. Drop your weapon, first, said Zillis, lifting me slightly to cover her neck. Her maw was resting on top of my head, right between the ears, which felt surprisingly nice. The gun barrel-sized circle of cold metal pressed against my temple was considerably less nice. Sergeant, please stand down, I said, finding my voice. This is all a great misunderstanding. I'm sure everyone would love to put our weapons away and hash this out over tea. Out of the question, sir, Holden barked back. His eyes narrowed in concentration. His ear flicked subtly in a motion that meant, yeah, we're doing this, or perhaps simply, proceed. Let us do our jobs. Us. Holden's squad was with him. This is ridiculous. I shouted back. Leave her to me. That's an order. Go deal with the stampede. There are probably dozens of injured in the streets, and at most one or two in here. Do the math, and get going. Holden's head tilted to the side, but his rifle didn't budge. She has a gun to your head. You're under duress. Orders invalid. Now stop talking. His paw shifted its grip on his long arm. Sir. Zillis's voice dropped impossibly low. Sub-vocalizing, practically. I think I was the only person who could hear her. My giant ears were practically caressing her throat. Why isn't he obeying you, she said. I could hear the terror in her voice. I winced, and responded in a whisper. It's all quite elementary, really, but I don't think now is the best time for an educational lecture on the nature of power dynamics and rulership. Rain check, if we survive this. From the way the scales on her neck brushed against the fur on my scalp, I felt Zillis nod, and we both turned our attention to the problem in front of us. Nevix like Holden and I were prey. We had side-facing eyes. We didn't particularly have any real need to point our whole faces directly at what had our attention. But it was uncommonly bad form for Holden to be glancing off to the side instead of down the barrel of his rifle. There was only a tiny overlap in the front of our faces where we could muster binocular vision and properly aim, especially if he was planning to attempt a difficult marksman's shot at Zillis's head without clipping mine, and Holden was wasting that visual sweet spot on something other than Zillis. I turned my head slightly, the cold metal of the gun in Zillis's hand brushing against the fur on my temple, and spotted the tiniest hint of a brown blur behind us. Ah. Same play they pitched against Clovis back in the hospital. They're flanking us, I hissed. Zillis, back door, now. Zillis kicked over a nearby flower pot, pulling Holden's attention away from her for a split second, and lunged out the back door hard. It slammed open, knocking the goated lieutenant hiding back there on her ass. Bullets chased after us, but Holden was too late on the draw, and nobody else had a clear shot on the alley out back. Zillis absolutely hoofed it outside, weaving through the back alleys as best as she could. Small as she was by Arxer standards, she was still carrying me in one arm like I was a sack of groceries. Sorry, sack of root vegetables. Why did I think groceries? All I could fit in my head now was the visual of an Arxer heading down to the store to pick up some live Nevik for the week. Gah. Where was I? Literally, where was I? It was dark, and it reeked. My apologies, Zillis, but I think I zoned out for a second there, I said. Did you jump into a dumpster to hide? Yes. Show. Zillis hissed, holding me closer. Ancestor spare me, I was practically a plushie to her. I think she was fully hugging me at this point just to ground herself. I gently, softly, wriggled a paw free and tapped a tiny claw on the inside of the dumpster. It made the distinctive tunk sound of hollow metal. I grimaced. Uni deal. If they break the flamethrowers out, I think we might prefer a hiding spot with better thermal insulation than a corrugated steel sarcophagus. My eyes flicked around. I could smell the trash all around us, but aside from a thin outline of light where the lid wasn't firmly attached, I couldn't see a thing in the dark. Or maybe someplace with better lines of sight or escape routes. Shut up. I'm thinking. Zillis hissed, squeezing me tighter. Hostages need to breathe. I wheezed, and she loosened her grip just a touch. I took a deep breath. Big mistake. I started coughing immediately from the trash stench. Sorry. Okay. Let me see if I can untangle this. Tippin clearly had his issues to work out regarding the Arxer, but surely, when the chips were down, he'd be there for me when I needed him. He was family. That's why I trusted him to be in charge of security. I pulled my holopad out. The bright light of it in the dark space made Zillis flinch. In a single panicked motion, she snatched the thing out of my hand and bit it in half. I stared at the spot in the dark where the pieces had landed and sighed. Okay. That was uncalled for. You're just gonna give away our location. Zillis hissed. I wasn't. I protested. I was trying to help you. She shook her head. No. I've been on raids before. Prey are panicky in combat. You're not gonna do the right thing. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit surprised at how calm I am, too, I said. But fine. I was just gonna call Tippin, see if he could unravel this mess, maybe call off the troops. Zillis made a disgusted noise in her throat. Tippin sucks, she spat. He waved a gun at me. He waved a gun at Benwen. She blinked, suddenly staring at the sidearm in her hand with baffled confusion. He waved, this gun, at Benwen. What the frick? Why do you have this? I'm surprised you can even see it in this gloom, I muttered. But yeah, Tippin gave it to Benwen for self-defense, and I took it off of Benwen because the poor kid doesn't actually know how to use a firearm. You know he shot 2 people this morning. One of them was by accident. Does the phrase, negligent discharge, exist in your language, or? Zillis reared back in surprise, still staring at the pistol. Benwen doesn't know how to use a gun, she repeated, incredulous. I imagine your upbringings were a bit different, yes. I shook my head. But that's neither here nor there. If we make it out of here alive, I'm going to have some very strong words with Tippin about his behavior. I coughed. All right. You try calling for help, then. Who do you trust? Commander Seifel, Zilla said immediately. I shrugged. Adding more Arxer to the mix might escalate the problem, but Seifel, at the very least, seemed extremely invested in keeping the peace. As good a choice as any. Have at it, then. Zillis put the gun down behind her carefully out of my reach, just in case, and tapped out a contact on her very much intact holopad. It rang. Memory transcription subject, Chief Executive Officer Seifel, Seaglass Mineral Concern date. Standardized human time, January 27, 2137. I luxuriated in the warm water flowing over my scales. Clovis was right. A nice hot shower was exactly what I needed right now. Not sure which species had put all the bath time tools there, the tough-skinned Tackans or the quilled Gojits, maybe, but somebody had left a hard-bristled scrubby brush in the standard bathing suite. I direly needed it. Really rub that soap in, abrade some of the dead skin cells off of my harder-to-reach scales. It was all slightly off from what I was used to, but in a fun way that made it kind of exotic and interesting. The brush was tough plastic instead of bone or quill, and I had no idea what the soap was made of beyond, probably not glycerin boiled out of animal fat. It smelled amazing, though. Floral, with a hint of aromatic wood. Honestly, we Arxer needed to stop keeping plants at arm's length. They clearly had their uses. In fact, I'd even make a point to have another cup of that lovely tea when I got out. Just seemed nice. Everything seemed nice. My holopad rang, and I let it go to voicemail. I was just in such a good mood, you know. What had I even been stressing about, really? Everything was going great. Arxer and Prey were finally learning to get along. No problems, no notes. Nothing could possibly be urgent enough that it couldn't wait on a few more minutes of soapy wet bliss. Memory transcription subject, Chairman Debbin, Seaglass Mineral Concern date, standardized human time, January 27, 2137, but no one answered. Zillis fully let go of me in shock, clapping her free hand over her mouth in horror. Why isn't she answering, she whimpered. I scooched away, turning to face her, praying silently that I didn't find myself in a puddle of particularly drippy trash. In the dim light, Zillis's face was illuminated primarily by her holopad. It was an all-too-familiar expression, not a predator, but a person, a real person, stricken with grief and betrayal. Oh, I'd certainly had my romantic fantasies, sure, and I'd already pulled the plug on Seaglass's allegiance to the Federation, but seeing an Arxer like this. Looking back, I think that was the final nail in the coffin for endless ages of propaganda. The Arxer couldn't be soulless monsters. Soulless monsters didn't feel hurt and abandoned. I put a supportive paw on her leg, I guess. Thigh. I didn't think I was being untoward, but I also really couldn't see very well. We Nevics weren't adapted to night vision. Quite the opposite, really. Snow White fur on a snow white planet, can you imagine the glare? Half the reason Idle had never been raided was our well-funded fleet. The other half was that the Arxer had never invented sunglasses. Hey, I said. We can still get out of this. Don't worry. Who else do you trust? Zillis looked mortified. Her eyes flicked towards me, reflecting the light, then flicked away, embarrassed. I don't know. We could call Benwen. I tried. You trust him, don't you? I'm not sure if he can do much, personally, but he can at least go find us help, right? He's mad at me, Zillis mumbled. We were watching movies together last night, and then... I don't know. He just froze up, suddenly, and I don't know what I did wrong. I'm sorry. Hey, SH, it's okay, I said, patting her consolingly. I talked to Benwen this morning. You didn't do anything wrong, and it's no big deal. He just got the snack bags mixed up. He ate one of your pork rinds, and he started panicking that he was poisoned or something. Zillis's jaw dropped in horror. But he's fine. I said, my voice tight with restraint. I shouldn't have wanted to laugh in the first place, but I kinda did, and there were no gods in the universe that could save me from the mess I create if I started laughing now. Benwen's fine. Dr. Taika, that Zerulean who studied human medicine. She thinks small amounts of well-cooked meat are probably harmless too. Herbivores. The dose makes the poison and all that, right? Poor guy just tuckered himself out with worry. He doesn't blame you. Zillis sniffled. I hadn't even realized she'd started crying. Quietly, in the dark. Had that been her life? He doesn't blame me, she repeated, unsure. Not in the slightest, I said warmly. I nodded towards the little screen light in her hand. Give him a call. At worst, he might still be asleep. Okay, said Zillis, trusting me. She tapped out another contact. Her holopad rang, memory transcription subject, Benwen, Nevic intern date, standardized human time, January 27, 2137. I yawned and opened my eyes. I was dizzy, and I needed some water, but I think I felt well rested. That was nice. I'd needed that. I looked around at the big bed with the simple thin sheets and the side rails to keep me from falling out, and the sterile fluorescent lighting, and the off-white ceiling tiles, and the acrid smell of unscented cleaning solution and rubbing alcohol and the little devices that went beep, and the Zerulean doctor looking up from her holopad to stare at me and see if I was good, if I was a good person finally, or if I was going to be a problem again today like I always was, I always was, I screamed. Hey. Hey, said Dr. Taika, trying to sound soothing. You're okay. You're safe. You're in the hospital. I screamed louder. You're perfectly healthy, and you're allowed to leave whenever you want. Taika tried instead, speaking as fast as she could. I took several deep breaths in rapid succession, trying to get my heart rate back down, and quietly sat up. Okay. That's good to hear. Thank you. Is the teapot still? Yes, please, help yourself, Taika said, a bit startled herself. She huffed, coming down from the sudden excitement, and settled back into her studies or notes or whatever. I glanced at my holopad as I poured myself another tea. Oh, wow, it's nearly 10 o'clock, I said. I hope I'm not late for anything. Debbin would have contacted me if I was late, right? Said Taika, only half paying attention. Oh, yeah, probably. The holopad buzzed in my paws. Oh, that's probably him now. I said, happily. Then the realization set in that if I was late for work, my boss calling me probably wasn't the same as a friend calling me. Then I actually read the contact information for the incoming call. Oh. It's, Zillis. It was a friend after all. Sure, we'd maybe left off on an awkward note, but surely the fact that she was calling was good news, right? Right. I hit the call accept button and silently prayed that my best friend wasn't mad at me. Benwen. Zillis whisper shouted. I'm so glad you picked up. I'm sorry. I fricked up bad. I need help. I don't know if this relationship is healthy anymore. Where do I go from here? I met my boyfriend, Alex, almost a year ago. We started dating when our families didn't approve, but after lots of fighting and trying, they came around. At first, everything seemed great, but then arguments started to pop up every now and then. One of our big fights was about me not updating him enough while I was studying. As an academic achiever, focusing on my classes is a top priority for me, especially since I'm the eldest and will likely support my family in the future. But Alex felt like I wasn't giving him the attention he needed. Months later, we had another big argument because I wanted to study abroad. He was convinced that long distance wouldn't work and that I should stay local instead. I kept telling him it was for my future and that I was not leaving to find someone else, but during the fight, he said something really hurtful. No wonder people unfaithful. He apologized later, saying he was just emotional, but those words stuck with me. Recently, Alex started acting distant. He'd send updates about his day, ignore my replies, and then send more updates without actually engaging. It felt like I wasn't important anymore. If he couldn't reply right away, it was fine, but if I couldn't, it became a huge deal. It felt like a double standard. When I suggested we spend more quality time together, he said I was tiring him out. In our last argument, he told me he was tired of me. That really hurt because I've never told him I was tired of him, only that I was tired of our constant fights. Before we had sex, I always said I wanted to wait until marriage. At one point, Alex accused me of leading him on because I kept saying no. Eventually, I changed my mind and agreed to have protected sex because I really wanted to be intimate with him. But right before it happened, he asked if we could skip the protection, just for 10 seconds. I said no 5 times before agreeing, just to avoid another fight. Afterward, I cried for 3 nights because I felt like my boundary hadn't been respected. Alex has blocked me after arguments a few times too. We both say hurtful things when we're upset, and sometimes I do it back, but he often resorts to personal attacks, calling me ugly if I don't update him enough. He knows how much those comments hurt because I struggle with low self-esteem. Some of our fights have been really intense. Once, during an argument on a video call, Alex got so angry that he broke his own computer and spent hours yelling at me while I cried. Those fights affected my mental health badly. I even relapsed into self-harm after being clean for 3 years. I'm not blaming him entirely, but those arguments pushed me to one of the lowest points in my life. There are times when Alex is very affectionate, spends quality time with me, and surprises me with thoughtful gifts. These moments remind me why I fell in love with him. But lately, the hurtful side of him has been showing up more and more. The arguments have become more frequent and intense, and it feels like I'm shrinking just to keep things going. I find myself walking on eggshells and avoiding bringing up anything that might turn into another fight. It feels like I'm not being my true self anymore. After our last argument, he blocked me everywhere again. I know I've made mistakes too. I've ghosted him once after a particularly hurtful argument, and I've said hurtful things back during fights. But I'm not perfect. I don't know if what we're going through is something couples can work through or if this relationship has become unhealthy. I hope to get some advice on how to move forward. It's hard being friends with the opposite sex. I've always had trouble trusting guys' intentions when they say they just want to be my friend. I hang out with guys way more than girls, but every time I try to build a friendship with one of them, it ends up turning into something else. Recently, I started going to the gym to focus on my lower body, and let's just say I think it turned out pretty good. But no matter how much effort I put in, all these guys keep staring at me like they see something I don't. One of my closest guy friends caught me off guard by checking me out from behind when I bent down to pick something up. It was awkward as hell. When I confronted him about it, he just shrugged and said that he only views me as a friend because he feels like a brother to me. I mean, come on, how is that supposed to make me feel good? It's so insulting to be shrugged off like that. Now, I'm not sure if I even want to try being friends with the opposite sex anymore. Stop being so friendly. I work at a behavioral healthcare agency where we have 14 therapists who review paperwork from various psychiatric facilities. As the receptionist, my job was to greet everyone and chat for a bit before getting down to business. People would tell me that they loved how cheerful I was, saying it kept their day bright. 1 month, everything was fine, my director and I got along great. But then, things took a turn. She started nitpicking every little thing I did. One day, she called me into her office and said I was being too social and chatty with my coworkers, that I wasn't getting enough work done, which just wasn't true. She told me to limit my conversations to just greetings. I looked at her, nodded, and promised to follow her advice. For the next few days, I greeted people but then quickly went back to my desk. Whenever a therapist came over with an assignment, they would start chatting. But I had to stop them and tell them that I needed to get back to work. They'd give me those awkward looks and sometimes just nod. It was like everyone around me knew something I didn't. After a few days of this, the therapists began coming up to my desk individually, asking how I was doing. They were so nice, always saying their doors were open if I needed anything. I thanked them, told them everything was fine, and tried to go back to work. But it was hard with all these looks and questions. The following week, the director called me into her office again. She asked what was wrong, but when I told her that everything was fine, my work was on time, the therapists were getting their assignments, I could see she wasn't convinced. She then revealed something surprising. The clinicians were worried about me because they hadn't seen me talking to them as much and thought maybe I was going through some kind of depression. The director didn't say anything at first but eventually told me that it would be fine if my chats with colleagues lasted just a few minutes. I nodded, agreeing with her. TIFU by getting hit in the face by a deer on a first date. Well, not exactly today, but 2 years ago. In the summer of 2024, after leaving a toxic job, I decided to take a 6-week vacation before looking for something better. I headed to my family's trailer on a small island, about an hour away by boat from where I live. Around that time, I finally felt ready to end the 2-year break I had taken from dating, and a friend suggested Bumble, so I gave it a try. A few disappointing matches and a short-lived situation later, I matched with Jay, 31M. We hit it off and, since I was already away for the summer, we spent over a month talking. Before long, he offered to take the 1-hour ferry to the island for our first date. Since I knew the area well, I suggested visiting a tiny nearby island that's only accessible by boat. It's a protected nature reserve with crystal clear waters and deer and peacocks roaming freely. I'd been there more than 20 times over the years and had safely interacted with the animals. As we boarded the little boat, we noticed several warning signs telling visitors to stay away from the deer. Feeling way too confident, I laughed them off and told Jay they were probably there for liability reasons because, in my experience, the deer always kept their distance. You can probably see where this is going. As soon as we arrived, Jay went to change into his swimsuit, while I sat on a bench near the beach bar eating a snack. Out of nowhere, a deer came up behind me and tried to steal the snack. When I instinctively pulled my hand away, it got frustrated and swung its antlers straight into my face, missing my left eye by just a few centimeters. So there I was, about 30 minutes into my first date, bleeding profusely while trying to process the fact that I'd just been assaulted by a deer. We later learned that tourists had been feeding them all summer, making them bold enough to come and steal food from visitors. Apparently, several people, including a child, had already been injured. When Jay came back, he found me covered in blood. Somehow, we both stayed surprisingly calm. The beach bar staff disinfected the wound, and I joked that he'd only gotten to see me pretty for a few minutes before I ended up with a hole in my face, but I still wanted to continue the date if he was okay with it. He agreed, and we had a drink and even went for a swim. Despite the circumstances, I distinctly remember thinking his long, wet curly hair smelled amazing. Eventually, though, we decided to leave because my face wouldn't stop bleeding. We got back, and I drove us to the island's medical center, where Jay stayed with me while I got a tetanus shot and a few stitches. He remained calm and reassuring throughout the whole thing, and we even managed to joke about the situation. Afterwards, we grabbed lunch before he caught the ferry back home. That date quite literally scarred me for life. Pun intended. 2 years later, I have a small but pretty noticeable scar under my left eye, and a 2-year relationship with the love of my life. It took another 2 dates before anything happened between us. Jay was shy and didn't make a move until he asked if he could kiss me, which I found adorable. A few months later we officially became a couple, and I've never fallen so hard for someone. He's handsome, smart, sweet, sensitive, and always cooks for me, LOL, and most importantly, he didn't let a deer attack scare him away. To his friends, I was the deer girl for a long time, and we still tell the story of our first date whenever someone notices the little scar under my eye. Last year we even went back to the same island for our deer anniversary. Thankfully, the deer had gone back to their normal behavior. Throughout our relationship, we spent countless evenings listening to Reddit story podcasts together, so I thought I'd dig up my old Reddit account and finally contribute one of our own. Jay, if you somehow ever stumble across this, I love you, and I feel incredibly lucky to have you. Here's to many more deer anniversaries, preferably with fewer antlers. I feel like my partner only wants sex when I'm too exhausted to want it. My partner and I have been together for 7 years now, and we've lived as roommates for 4. He's always super busy with work, early flights, long days, and client dinners. When I finally get home, my brain feels like it's full of static noise, and all I want is to just lie down. But that's when he gets the most affectionate and flirty. I'll walk in tired, drop my suitcase, take a quick shower, and try to relax, but then he turns on the charm. If I say yes, I basically force myself to keep up with him and end up feeling resentful afterward. If I say no, he gets quiet and distant, not angry, just withdrawn. Then, I feel guilty and try to make it up later. It feels like intimacy is a debt I owe. On weekends when I actually have the energy and want to be close, he's often distracted, watching something, scrolling, or doing chores, or says he's tired. So it feels like sex only happens on his schedule, and that's usually at a time when I'm least able to be present. I've tried talking to him gently, telling him I miss him and need some time to land back home first. He says he understands, but nothing really changes. Now, I'm starting to dread coming home because I know I'll either disappoint him or have to fake it just to make things work out. I don't want to stop being intimate with him, but I just wish it could happen when I'm actually there for it. How do I bring this up in a way that changes the pattern without making him feel rejected and without me having to force myself through it? Used to let my dealer go down on me in exchange for free weed. He was 23 years older than me, and for almost 3 years, I would go to his place regularly. He'd give me a free half ounce every time, never anything else. All I had to do was lay there, and he was really good at it. I liked not having to spend any money on my weed too. Sometimes it would last almost an hour, but I didn't mind. He was married, though, and did this behind his wife's back, which makes me feel guilty now looking back. I'm sure I wasn't the only one he saw, but sometimes I wonder if she ever found out what he was doing and left him. I really hope she did. I've never told anyone in person and probably never will. My neighbor flashed me. Last Saturday, I was out mowing the lawn when I noticed a girl from next door tanning in their yard. She was 18 and I'm 22, so we didn't usually chat much. But this time, I couldn't take my eyes off her. She seemed to notice too because she got up at one point, looked over, took off her top, made sure I saw what I needed to see, and then went back to tanning. We started exchanging snaps right after that. It was just for fun, you know. But it turned into something more. We've been trading nudes for 2 days now, and it's really gotten to me. I'm so focused on her that I almost stopped paying attention to my girlfriend. I really want to do more with this girl from next door, but I've never been unfaithful before. It's kind of crazy how much she's affecting me. My dad touches me but not really, you can imagine where. So, my dad has a pretty bad temper and sometimes gets really mad, which makes him act mean. He's also not very nice to mom, and she often just stays quiet because he provides for the family. Even though he cheats on her sometimes, he still buys us things like fun activities and helps out with school stuff. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Dad watches a lot of porn and has asked me some pretty weird questions about it. He tried touching me once, but I stopped him right away. And recently, today, he saw my private area because I had slept in without underwear on. He said something along the lines of, "You're growing up, son, and your private area looks nice." It's a bit awkward since we're not close like that. But here's the weird part, Dad shows affection too. He hugs me all the time and kisses me. I don't know if he means it in a fatherly way or something else. The thing is, he says I'm his reason to keep going, which makes me feel really conflicted. If I push him away too much, he might leave us. I don't expect anyone to give me advice online, but I just need someone to listen and maybe understand what's going on. I have been afraid to hang out with my friend for years. So you see, my best friend, they or she, we've known each other for almost 14 years now. We started in kindergarten, and we've always been super close. They're turning 20 this year, same as me, but I graduated high school early with them. We went to different schools after middle school about 4 years ago, but we stayed in touch online. It's like our bond is unbreakable, we chat every single day, even multiple times a day. In fact, they're probably one of the few friends I still talk to from way back then. But here's the thing, we never hang out in person. One of our other friends suggested that maybe it would be fun if we met up, but I never got around to asking them. And you know why? Well, there's this huge problem. About 4 years ago, something happened to me, I started gaining a ton of weight. It's really bugging me because I feel like everyone will judge how I look. But here's the thing, my friend isn't judgmental at all. They wouldn't care if my pants were a size bigger or smaller. In fact, when we hang out with other friends, it doesn't bother me much unless there's someone I'm really interested in. This is so confusing because there's no chemistry between us, we're just best friends who have known each other for so long. The right thing to do would be to meet up and show them how I look now. But something blocks me from doing it. Maybe it's because they mean so much to me, being one of my oldest friends. I could probably catch up with another friend I haven't seen in years without feeling as guilty. The guilt is crushing me though, I feel like a child, selfish for not spending more time with someone who means so much to me. It's making me feel all sorts of things, guilty, childish, and selfish. But the most confusing part is that I know what I should do, but I just can't seem to bring myself to ask them out. The last dog in Harappa. Pochi, the last dog on Earth, sat there crying sadly. Beth, the AI dog, asked, "What's up, Pochi?" She was made to take care of him because all the other dogs were created as replacements. Pochi sniffled and said, "I miss Harappa." Beth tilted her head, confused. Harappa. What's that? She asked. It means a field in Japanese, Pochi explained. I used to run around there. Beth projected a movie of dogs playing in an artificial playground on the dog run. She said, "Is this what you want?" Pochi sighed heavily. But I can't do that anymore. Now I'm only allowed to walk around this block. Beth pondered hard, her ears puffing with thought. Finally, she lifted her nose and said, "Okay, I'll make it happen for you. Can you wait a day or two?" Pochi's face lit up. "Sure. Thank you so much." Beth puffed out her chest and said, "I'll take care of everything. Just wait." 2 hours later, the geostationary satellite crashed into the building next to their home. Old Hands 1. Tomas was cleaning when he noticed something strange under a dispenser in Concourse 9. A black line was spreading across the polished floor, growing faster than any mold should. It moved against the ventilation draft and recoiled from disinfectant. Tomas picked up his cleaning cart and scanned it. The scanner showed no biological hazard, but he wasn't convinced. A Veyari passenger nearby noticed him crouching. "Is there a problem, human?" asked the Veyari, whose long blue face was adorned with metallic plates. "Maybe," Tomas replied, unfolding his pry bar. He poked at the floor seam where the black line appeared to be coming from. It tightened and pulled back when he tried to pry it open. Beneath the panel, thousands of thin strands wrapped around power conduits, pulsing with the station's electrical rhythm. Tomas replaced the panel and stepped back. The Veyari passenger looked less smug now. "What is that?" he asked, backing away as the black line reappeared, this time dividing into 2 branches. One branch followed a power line to Tomas's cleaning cart. He unplugged it, but the black strand stopped moving. Then it changed direction and headed toward the dispenser. "Maintenance," Tomas said, "this contamination is following active current." The dispenser's lights flickered as the black material climbed its base, illuminating every button at once. The Veyari screamed and backed away. Tomas cut off the station breaker beneath the dispenser. The casing peeled open, revealing a knot of wet, dark fibers inside. A service arm pushed through the front panel and struck where Tomas had been kneeling. Move, Tomas shouted to the VRE passenger as he grabbed his manual pump and sprayed concentrated floor degreaser at the black growth. The strands recoiled slightly, giving him an opening to spray again. The metal arm collapsed against the floor. Tomas watched in shock as every door in Concourse 9 sealed shut. Reports of similar issues came from all over the station: black growths, faulty systems, locked doors. Then the alarm blared. Attention! Long Reach is experiencing a limited systems interruption. The lights went out, and emergency illumination lit up along the floor. The black growth turned toward it, reaching for more light. Tomas pushed the VRE passenger to safety as the dispenser changed shape, metal folding around the knot of dark fibers. A service arm emerged from the front panel and struck where Tomas had been kneeling. He grabbed the manual pump and sprayed again, watching in horror as the black strands pulled away and the dispenser collapsed into a mass of wet, dark fibers. Tomas ran to the concourse exit, leaving behind a scene of destruction and confusion. The station's expensive disinfectant was useless against this threat, but his cheap floor degreaser worked wonders. I've realized I am an alcoholic and trying to figure out how to stop. I'm turning 18 this year, and I've been drinking so much that sometimes I wonder how I function at all. Back when I was in high school, a friend group convinced me to drink every day, just a bottle or two of Bacardi. It didn't take long for the hangovers to start, but I stayed with them anyway. My old best friend and I tried not drinking on weekends, but it didn't work out well. When I drank, I felt insecure, unattractive, and just plain happy. I was a very happy drunk. My best friend had an alcohol issue too. We judged each other until it became us. Now, I'm stuck in this cycle of addiction. I realized I had a problem when I only drink to be drunk. It's the fear of people's opinions that drives me. I want to stop drinking, and I know I have to if anything is going to change. I don't smoke or vape, it's just alcohol for me. But it's a slippery slope, and I've ended up broke after hitting clubs and pubs. My life revolves around alcohol. Has anyone here gone sober? How did you do it? What made you hit rock bottom to stop drinking? AITA for refusing to go on a 3.5-week-long vacation with my family. I'm 20 and work casual retail in Australia. Late last year, my parents invited me on a big trip to Japan for the month of December 2026. I thought about it but said no right away because that's when I usually have the busiest period at work. Missing almost a whole month would mean losing thousands of dollars. My parents kept promising they'd cover everything, flights and accommodation, and just asked me to pay for food and spending money, saying what mattered most was having everyone together as a family. They said it wouldn't cost much since we were all in. But this year, they changed their minds suddenly. Now they're telling me I have to pay for my own trip. I reminded them about the original promise, but they said as an adult, I should contribute. I've been saving almost every penny to get a driver's license and buy my first car. I commute 2 to 2.5 hours each way by public transport and have had plenty of experiences with men following and harassing me late at night on buses. A car isn't just about convenience for me, it's important for safety and independence. I really don't want to go on this trip, but I agreed only because my parents made the promise. I suggested coming for 1 week and flying home alone so we could still have family time without me losing a lot of income. They wouldn't hear of it, it had to be all or nothing. And now they've said if I don't go, I'm not allowed to stay in their house when they're away. They claim it's because they don't trust me to be home alone after 2 incidents, once as a teenager, falling asleep while boiling water, which never happened again, and earlier this year, leaving a hair curler plugged into the wall. I didn't even own one. My parents, my sister, and several relatives think I'm being selfish. My aunt went so far as to say I should be grateful they're considering any compromise at all because she wouldn't have. I get that they wanted a family holiday, but it feels like agreeing only because of their promises is making me look unreasonable. So, AITA. Classmate got pranked by fake letter after screwing us over. Back in the 90s, when the internet was still a thing for nerds like us, gaming was all about trading and swapping copies of games. My friend and I were pretty serious gamers back then, but we couldn't always find new stuff to play because stores only had a few titles on hand. So, we started ordering games from overseas through the mail, pretty expensive, but worth it for that excitement. Then, a new kid joined our class. His uncle had this huge collection of games we didn't have access to. We struck up a deal with him, he'd copy the games and give us the originals in return. But instead of getting working copies, we got corrupted floppies, missing protections, you know, that kind of stuff. Months went by, and every game we tried ended up not working. Meanwhile, our new friend was still racking up his collection. We were done with him, but we didn't know how to make him pay for it. Then, something caught my eye, the AIDS campaigns happening everywhere after Freddie Mercury passed away from AIDS in 1991. I loved Queen, and this kid always mocked me for liking a gay singer. His family was super conservative, his mom especially strict. We thought we had our revenge plan. One day, our class attended an AIDS event organized by some foundation. At the end, everyone got free condoms with the AIDS Foundation's logo. My friend and I had access to a computer at home, so we decided to make him pay for it. We made a fake letter from the foundation, copying their logo perfectly. It went something like this: Dear first name, thank you for your letter. We understand it's difficult being open about being homosexual and you have many questions after the event you attended with your class. Please find enclosed a flyer which should answer many of your questions as well as some condoms. Please practice safe sex at all times. We included all the flyers and condoms we got from the event, making sure to address it to Mr. Last Name. We knew his dad would open it first. We had no idea what was about to come. When he found out, his mom was in tears, screaming, and his dad was furious. He was grounded for weeks, and our friend's parents were convinced he was gay. At first, he thought the letter was real and we contacted the foundation in his name. Eventually, we confessed it was all a prank, and we ended up explaining everything to the principal with his parents present. It turned out to be one of the best pranks I ever pulled, 30 years ago and still remembered fondly. AITA for asking my bridesmaids to contribute to matching pajamas after already paying for everything else. I'm getting married soon, and it's been a whirlwind of preparations. One thing that's been on my mind lately is whether or not I handled something poorly. Let me set the scene for you. I've paid for everything for my bridal party, bridesmaid dresses, hair, makeup, accessories, even accommodation for the wedding day. I wanted to make things as easy and stress-free as possible for everyone. My maid of honor initially suggested that we wear matching pajamas for the getting ready photos. She thought it was a fun idea and said she'd organize them. But somehow, it ended up being my responsibility. The bridesmaids picked out a set they loved, but at $140 each, those pajamas would cost around $700 just on their own. With 4 of us plus myself, that's a lot of money for something we'll only wear for a small part of the day. I kept asking them when they'd order and if it was done yet. Finally, I sent a message to our group chat explaining that while I love those pajamas too, I couldn't justify paying $700 more on top of everything else I'd already covered. I said if they wanted those ones, everyone would need to contribute towards the cost. I also offered to buy a cheaper matching set myself if no one wanted to chip in. Instead of understanding, one of my bridesmaids told me it wasn't considerate to ask them to pay. She insisted that I'd have to wait until payday because they had no money to give. Now, I'm second-guessing myself. I genuinely wasn't trying to dump costs on them, I just felt that after paying for their dresses, hair, makeup, accessories, and accommodation, asking if they wanted premium pajamas wasn't unreasonable. I also offered a more affordable option. It's been tough, but I hope things work out in the end. I'm feeling homesick and on top of that facing his tantrums. Hi all, just got here in Bangalore from my hometown and I'm feeling so homesick. It's like I want to cry so bad. You see, he's also in Bangalore, and I was really hoping he'd come over. But when I called him to try and cheer myself up, he was just acting all mad about something we argued about a few days ago. I mean, I apologized 100 times already. He's not even talking nicely to me right now, let alone calling or checking on how I'm doing. I was on the phone with him crying my eyes out, but instead of trying to make things better, he started making excuses for his behavior. I hung up and thought maybe that would help, but he didn't call back at all. He's not even around when I need him most. 36 and married 7 years, how do I bring up our dying sex life without sounding like I am criticizing her? So, my wife and I have been together for 10 years, married for 7. We have 2 kids, 5 and 2. Everything on paper looks great, we parent well together, we don't fight much, and we laugh a lot. But there's this thing that's been bothering me lately. Our sex life has really dwindled over the last year, it's maybe once every 6 to 8 weeks now. It's not that I'm expecting something wild or anything, just feeling wanted and having some closeness would be nice. I've tried being gentle about it, you know. More hugs, less sexual stuff at first, taking on more of the parenting duties after the kids go to bed. She says she appreciates it, but it doesn't seem like that's enough. When I bring it up, sometimes she just sighs or jokes about how tired she is. If I stop bringing it up altogether, nothing changes. I worry because I feel like maybe I'm coming across as too solution-focused, like I'm trying to fix her instead of really understanding where she's at. The last thing I want is for her to feel pressured or like she's failing. How do I start a conversation that's honest about how lonely this makes me feel, without making her defensive? If she tells me it just isn't there anymore, what do we do next in our long-term marriage with kids? It's tough, but I really want us to work through this. AITA for cock-blocking my brother. So, I've known my friend for 7 years. She's a girl who's 18 and I'm also 18. We're just friends, nothing more than that. She went on holiday and started posting some bikini pictures on Instagram. I was on holiday too, hanging out with my brother who was 21, when he saw those pics and said something like, "Hot damn," in a George Cooper kind of way. He then asked me to give him her Snapchat so he could check her out. At first, I didn't want to because it felt weird that he was using me to look at my friend's stuff. Plus, she likes black men and we're all white, so there was no chance. My brother kept making comments about how fit she is, saying she looks pretty and works out a lot. We are close friends, but she once told me something really personal, she wants to lose her virginity to the right person. I just don't think my brother fits that description at all. So, when he called me a dickhead for not giving him her Snapchat, I felt bad. But honestly, I had my reasons. Now, though, I'm second-guessing myself. TIFU Epsom salt is not the same as cooking salt. My friends Big S and Big T and I decided to hit up Budapest for a trip. Everything was going smoothly, first day explorations, second day visiting the parliament, then an afternoon free for us to do what we pleased. The evening brought a boat tour, and it all seemed like a perfect plan. But things took a turn when we got hungry during dinner time. We had limited time, so we decided to make some pasta. Big T went off to find salt while I stayed behind to pay for the ingredients at the store. Me and Big S were left with nothing but confusion as we couldn't read or speak Hungarian, so we thought so was just a typo of salt. Back home, we started cooking, but something wasn't right. The pasta tasted awful, so sour. Big S caught on when she pinched some of the supposed salt and immediately told us to stop eating. That salt sure wasn't for cooking. We panicked and went online to figure out what had happened. Turns out, it was Epsom salt, a powerful laxative that could cause serious health issues if consumed in large amounts. Drinking lots of water was our only hope. Now, we were terrified, both about ending up in the hospital on our second day and potentially having an accident during the boat tour later that evening. We decided to brave it out and headed over for the boat trip anyway. Thankfully, everything turned out okay, we didn't eat enough salt to have any real effects, other than giving us a big scare. In the end, we learned a valuable lesson, Epsom salt is not for cooking. If you take more than 30 grams in one day, it can make you feel sick and act as a laxative. We even tried using it for baths and foot soaks later on, just to be safe. I don't remember being touched inappropriately. Man, I've been dealing with some really messed up stuff from my dad. A couple of days ago, it was super hot, and I didn't wear any underwear because of the heat. When my dad woke me up, he made some weird comments about a certain area, but I wasn't sure if he actually touched me or not. It's been happening before too, some hitting, watching porn, drinking alcohol, smoking, and even making some strange remarks about how cute I am or asking to shower with me. It's pretty gross stuff, and it's not that common, but it happens often enough to make my skin crawl. My mom thinks I'm overreacting, saying it's just normal dad-son stuff. But she's planning to tell the authorities if it keeps happening. The truth is, I don't have the courage to talk to her about it yet. But I plan on telling someone, maybe a counselor or a trusted adult. I just needed to get this out there. Business trip mix-up. My wife went on a business trip with her male coworker, and they were staying in a 2-room suite at the hotel. She thought he was really funny and always told me stories about his silly office antics. When she got home, she dropped a big surprise. The hotel messed up and only gave them 1 room instead of 2. So, they had to squeeze into that small space. She said she felt nervous about it all, so she locked her door to keep things private. But here's the thing, why did she share this with me? I never would have known anything if she hadn't told me. Why spill the beans on something so personal? This happened years ago, but it keeps bugging me. My gut tells me there's more to the story than just a mix-up at the hotel. But why tell me about it? Should I be worried that they might have gotten closer than we think? I can't remember what crime I committed. It's been forever since I was stuck in here. I don't even remember what I did that got me locked up. The guards bring food sometimes, but they could just as easily let me starve to passing. Loneliness is my constant companion, the only thing I see are these dull gray walls. I used to love running, but it's been a while since I've had any space to do it here. There's barely enough room to move without bumping into something or hitting myself on one of those metal bars. Sometimes, just sometimes, I'd bang my head against them, mostly out of frustration, though. I try to get someone's attention now and then, but they never respond. They don't know what I've done here. It's like no one cares. I miss my mom and dad so much. Oh gosh, I'm sorry for whatever mistake got us separated. All I want is for them to forgive me someday. Being alone has made the little contact I get feel more precious. I always try to be polite when they come with food or clean up my area. They make sure I stay away during cleaning though, safety reasons, I guess. Winters are pretty harsh here, but I'm lucky enough to have a good coat, so it's not too bad. Summers, on the other hand, are torture because they can't give me anything else to wear. I'm getting older now and hope for a different life is slipping away. But I try to make the most of this almost permanent solitary confinement. I just hope things change soon.